over and over, going back to Psalm 78, I've delivered you over and over. And I've gotten to a point where I can no longer be just and forgive you. I would have to apologize to the Moabites, and to the Midianites, and to the Ammonites, and to the Edomites. I would have to apologize to the Canaanites for judgment, because as the prophets say, Sodom and Gomorrah are ashamed of you. Your sin is so great. That's pretty rough, isn't it? So I gave them over to the stubbornness of their heart, to walk in their own devices. Oh, that my people would listen to me, that Israel would walk in my ways. I would quickly subdue their enemies and turn my hand against their adversaries. Those who hate the Lord would pretend obedience to him, and their time of punishment would be forever. But I would feed you with the finest of the wheat, with honey from the rock. I would satisfy you. This judgment I am bringing on you is not what my heart wants to do, but it's what my justice requires that I do. I cannot remove this from you just now. So, Psalm 82. Again, a psalm of Asaph. God takes his stand in his own congregation. He judges in the midst of the rulers. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Let me see here. That word rulers is very important. Do you notice that when I click, let me do it differently. When I click, watch verse 1 here, just the whole verse. Just keep your attention on the whole verse. When I click rulers, what else is highlighted? God. Why? Because the Hebrew behind both words is Elohim. So what do I do with that? What's going on? There are places, Psalm 45 is the most obvious. It's quoted in chapter 1 of Hebrews. But Psalm 45 is about the wedding of a king in Judah. We don't know what king. But in Psalm 45, God says to the ruler who's getting married, my mind won't get me there. Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. Now, it sounds like praise of God, does it not? Yes or no? Okay, but it's not. It's God speaking. It's God speaking through the prophet to the king, as will become clear. Your throne, O God, is forever and ever. A scepter of uprightness is the scepter of your kingdom. And notice that the NASB has capitalized this. They are assuming this is a reference to the Lord God in heaven. You have loved righteousness and hated wickedness. Therefore, God, your God, has anointed you. What God does Yahweh have? What God does Yahweh have?
Justice.
No. I have a God, his name is Yahweh. What God is Yahweh's God?
What God has a God?
God has no God.
Yes.
But this God has a God. Are you with me here?
Yes.
So, if you go on down, all your garments are fragrant with myrrh and aloes and cassia. Out of ivory palaces, stringed instruments have made you glad. King's daughters are among your noble ladies. At your right hand stands the queen in gold of Ophir. This is a wedding song. When did God get married? Who performed the ceremony?
He's going to marry.
He's going to marry. No.
He's going to.
No. He's already married. Israel is his
engagement.
No engagement. Israel is his adulterous wife. See, this is the language the prophets use, yes?
Yeah.
And especially Hosea, but other prophets use the language too. So he's not going to get married, he's already married. So what are we talking about in Psalm 45? We're talking about a king who is marrying a human woman and praising the king, praising the bride for the wedding. It's a wedding song. So who is this, your throne, O God? Who is this God who has a God? Well, it's the human king, the servant of the Lord in Jerusalem. So it's David, it's Solomon, it's somebody in the line of David. Do you follow this? Yes? So in Hebrews 1, there is a series of developing ideas. Turn to Hebrews 1 with me, just so we can see this. I need to explain what is going on in Psalm 82 so that we'll make sense of it. In verse 4, Hebrews 1:4, I thought I had gotten rid of all of it. No. In Hebrews 1 of Jesus, the author says, he has become as much better than the angels as he has inherited a more excellent name than they. What is the more excellent name than the angels? Well, this is Bible class, so it ought to be Jesus, but it's not. Okay. The word onoma in Greek, and you see it here, onoma. Yes. The name onoma in Greek, or the word, can also be used for a title. And so he tells us what the more excellent title is. For to which of the angels did he ever say, you are my son? This day hath begotten me. Or again, I will be a father to him, and he shall be my son. In light of this verse, who are we talking about? Deity? No, God never said to himself, I will be your father, and you will be my son. Who did he say, I will be his father, and he will be my son to? David. Who did he say it about? Solomon. This is talking about the royal king, the Davidic covenant, and the promise of the covenant to the king. No angel has been called the Son of God in this sense. There are places where you talk about the sons of God, but not in this sense, one who has the right to rule the whole earth. So he explains that, verse 6, and when he brings the firstborn into the world, and here again is probably in the right place in this translation, he says, let all the angels of God worship him. Wait a minute, angels of God are worshiping the king of Jerusalem? How can this be? Of the angels, he says, he makes his angels winds and his ministers a flame of fire. But of the Son, and notice he's still expounding the idea of Son, but he's now going to expand it. The Son, the heir of David, who has the right to rule the whole earth, also has another title. But of the Son, he says, your throne, O God, is forever and ever, and the righteous scepter is the scepter of his kingdom. Of his kingdom? No, your kingdom in Greek. Why did they put his kingdom? You have loved righteousness and hated lawlessness. Therefore, God, your God. Again, this God has a God. Are you with me here? Yahweh doesn't have any gods.
Yes.
So this is a person who may be called God and has a God. Are you with me here?
Yes.
So, therefore, God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness above your companions. And again, you, Lord, this is the word kurios in Greek. Kurios. Have you ever heard a Latin Mass? No? You haven't missed much. But there's typically in the Mass a part, when they sing it, they sing Kyrie eleison, Kyrie. O Lord, merciful. But this is the word that's here in our Greek text, but this is from Psalm 102. Psalm 102 is a lament psalm, which is obviously, it's a prayer, therefore it's addressed to Yahweh. So if I may call the Son God, I may also call him Yahweh. We're in a progress, an argument that's developing through chapter 1. He's progressively taking his readers to the supremacy of Jesus. So, he is Yahweh. You, O Lord, in the beginning laid the foundation of the earth. The heavens are the work of your hands. They will perish, but you remain. And they will become old like a garment, and like a mantle we will roll them up. Like a garment, they will also be changed, but you are the same. And your years will not come to an end. But to which of the angels did he ever say, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies the footstool of your feet? Psalm 110 is a psalm of David, yes? And David says, and this is how Jesus uses this psalm in the Gospels, whose son is Messiah? Well, they say, well, it's David's son. Well, how is it then that David, who speaks as a prophet, calls him Lord? The Lord said to my master, Yahweh said to my master, sit at my right hand. If he is David's son, how is he his master? How can I be David's son and David's master? So, you have to know Isaiah 11 at this point. Because in Isaiah 11, at the beginning, the Messiah, the hoped-for deliverer, the promised deliverer, is the shoot from David.
Yes.
But a little near the end of the psalm, of the passage, he's no longer the shoot from David. He's the root of Jesse. So if he's the offspring of David, how can he be in a position for Jesse to be his grandfather, to be his offspring? You follow? So Jesus is asking the same question, and if Pharisees were wise, they would have run back to Isaiah 11 and realized they were confronted by the same what's the word I want?
David's the son and
He's the son and the father.
master.
Yeah. How does this work? So there is a riddle. That's the word I want. There's the same riddle confronting them in both passages, Psalm 110 and Isaiah 11. So, which of the angels has he ever said, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet? After all, what are the angels? Well, that's verse 14. They're ministering spirits. Are you with me here? Yes, no?
Here in Hebrews 1, when he said this son, but you, the son, that's this son is referred to Jesus?
Well, in fact, yes. Verse 5, which of the angels did he ever say, you are my son? He's talking about initially, he's quoting Psalm 2, the Davidic covenant psalm. But then, I know it's not specifically or only David, it's any heir of David. Is Jesus then an appropriate subject for discussion here? Well, yes, he's an heir of David. Well, what does it mean to be son? It means that the angels worship him. And then he sits on a throne where his title is legitimately, O God. Anyone who does a major function like God does is warranted to have the title Elohim. Elohim does not only refer to Yahweh in the Old Testament. It refers, let me go back to our psalm here. Let me take you to a dictionary that will show you these ideas. It's highlighted, fortunately, here. One meaning of Elohim is gods. So the gods of Israel, gods of India, are Elohim.
Heathen.
Mhm. And then second, Elohim, when it's used with singular nouns, singular adjectives and singular verbs, is a reference to the God of Israel. But then there are miscellaneous uses. I don't know what that's intended to be. Sounds a little bit like Hindi, abhi to bring up, this is a problem, I've got to deal with that. Well, I'll have to deal with it later. When, for example, in Exodus 18:19, you bring a case before God, you're doing it before judges. So there's a good chance that the word Elohim is used for judges in Israel. Doing justice is the work of God. Those who do the work of God may be called Elohim. Does this make sense to you?
I'll make you God of Pharaoh.
Well, no. These would be the judges of Israel. Yeah. So it's their title. It's not who they are.
No, that's what God said to Moses. Yeah. I'll make you God of
Oh,
Pharaoh.
yes. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. I apologize. So when I look at the word Elohim, there are places where it's even used for angels. So you have the B'nai Elohim, the sons of the gods. Are you with me? Or the sons of God. So anyone who is doing functions that are uniquely God's functions, rulers, judges, prophets, people who belong in the inner circle of God, then may be called Elohim.
Angels.
Yeah, angels. So where did we get into that?
But these heathen gods are not in the circle of the God.
Yes, they are. Yes. You know the book of Daniel. Yes. God and Deuteronomy says this too. Daniel, the angel, talks about the prince of Persia and the prince of Greece and the ruler who stands for your people. Remember this? These are all angelic beings who are in the council of the Lord, who are called to account for their activities. So, in Job chapter 1, it came about on a certain day that the sons of God came before the Lord, and Satan came. Yeah. We think, well, what is Satan doing there? Does he belong there? And the answer is, in the council, yes, because I remind you of Genesis 28. Who is ascending and descending? Let me go check that. Let me make sure I'm saying truth here. Genesis 28. Let's see. Maybe. No, it's before that.
12.
Here it is, 12. The angels of God. This is actually messengers of God. But in Job, it's the sons of Elohim who are coming before the Lord. Satan is still in that company. And the reason in Genesis 28 they are ascending and descending on the staircase is that they're descending to carry out missions for God, and they're ascending to give an account of their work to God, not because God doesn't know, but because they must be accountable to God. And that's why Satan is among the sons of the gods in Job chapter 1. He owes an account of his activities to God. Where have you come from? And we have a report which sounds to us like he's giving no information. But you must know about stories in the Bible that they are characterized by what's called economy of narrative. They only tell you what you need to know in order to get the point of the story. So I don't get the full report that Satan gave to God because I don't need it for the story. I only get a summary of it. And then God says, have you considered my servant Job? You remember this?
Yes.
So we got into this through Psalm 82. Let's go back to Psalm 82. In his own congregation. Who is his own congregation? Well, it's Israel. And he judges in the midst of the Elohim. This will become, I think, clearer as the psalm unfolds. It still opens some questions, but I think it will get clearer as the psalm unfolds. How does Jesus use this Psalm 82? Do you recall? You'll remember in just a moment. How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Vindicate the weak and fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and destitute. Rescue the weak and needy. Deliver them out of the hand of the wicked. They do not know, nor do they understand. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. I said, you are gods. Who is he talking about? How does Jesus interpret this psalm? Who are the gods that he's talking about?
Rulers.
Whoever the word.
No, they're Israel.
Israel.
Remember this? He's talking about humans, and he calls them gods to whom the word of God came. Are you with me here? So my interpretation is consistent with Jesus' interpretation of the psalm. Does that make sense to you? I'm making it a little more specific than he did. He had a different purpose. So who are the gods? They are the judges of Israel. Why is Jerusalem in ruins? Well, what are the judges of Israel like? How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Why is Jerusalem in ruins? Because you won't do justice. So verse 5, they do not know, nor do they understand. They walk about in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are shaken. Why is Jerusalem in ruins? Your wickedness has caused a moral earthquake in Israel, and it has ruined the city of Jerusalem. It was ruined long before the city fell down before the Babylonians. Now it expresses outwardly what was true already within the city. I said, you are gods. All of you are sons of the Most High. Nevertheless, you will die like, we might use the word mere men here, and fall like any one of the princes. And so the response of Israel is, arise, O God, judge the earth, for it is you who possess the nation, all the nations. The only hope, they're being confronted with their sin. The only hope is if God will take the job that they should have been doing. So now, do you have questions about this? That was kind of a long and difficult line of reasoning. But look again at verse 6. This is the key in my mind. I have to at least come to the same conclusion Jesus comes to. Yes? So he thinks that this term is applicable to Israel. Yes? Within Israel, the psalm focuses on the judges.
Is it applicable to all Israel or only the rulers and judges?
No, all Israel, but it's peculiarly appropriate to the judges. However, the judges are doing what the people would do in the same situation. Are you with me here? Well, that judge is just a crook, I might say. He is wicked. But under the same circumstances, I probably would have made the same decision that he made.
So, as we discussed, it refers to a title, as you said
Yes.
earlier.
That's right.
So, whether it might be a crook,
Yeah.
but we are referring to the title.
That's right.
So in such a way, how it can be applicable to all the.
Well, Jesus, number one, Jesus says so. So I have to. So the way he describes it, notice here in the parallelism of the psalm, all of you are sons of the Most High. So the way he sees it is, this is true of all Israel. How much more true is it of Judges? Whatever is true of an Israelite farming in his village is true of judges who are doing the work of God. So we're arguing from the whole to the part. If all are Elohim, then anyone in it is Elohim, but peculiarly judges will be in that case. So Psalm 83 now. What we're trying to do is show that there is a line of reasoning that's going from 73 to 89. Can you see it now? Are you beginning to see connection of psalm to psalm to psalm? These don't stand solely upon their own 2 feet. They are quite intimately linked from psalm to psalm, from 73 to 89. That means when I teach one of these psalms, I can teach it as an individual literary piece and teach what it's saying, but I also have to have an eye on how it fits into the context and put these things together. So when let's suppose some particular hardship has hit our community, our congregation, and I'm the pastor. let me specify it a little better. Let's suppose a leader of our congregation has gotten into sin, and it has damaged the community of our congregation. We're in shambles. The people are brokenhearted, they're broken over this. How may I preach from these psalms? Well, I could go to a psalm that talks about the judgment of the wicked. But I may have to say, you see, in any community of God's people, some are born again and some are not. Yes? And those who are born again also suffer when the community suffers. As I pointed out to you yesterday, Jeremiah, a godly man, is carried off under curse to Egypt. So he dies under the curse. A godly man dies under the curse of God. You know the name Nabal. Yes. The husband of Abigail. Thank you. Abigail. Yeah, she became eventually the wife of David, but she's initially the wife of Nabal. Nabal is a wicked man, but he is prosperous. Why is he prosperous? Because Israel is blessed, not because everybody is obedient. In part, they're blessed because God is benevolent. He is merciful in ways I never dreamed he would be merciful. But in part, he is merciful because the spiritual condition of Israel is pretty good, and he gives blessing. Does it make sense to you? Yeah. So Nabal is a wicked man who's enjoying the blessing of God. Jeremiah is a righteous man who dies under the curse of God. Observe that blessing and curse have no direct one-to-one correlation with righteousness and wickedness. Are you with me? So wicked people can enjoy prosperity, blessing of God, and righteous people can suffer under curse. And I can't tell by the blessing or the curse whether they are righteous or wicked inherently. You follow this? Yeah. We don't think very well about the law, do we? Because I assume blessing means righteousness and curse means wickedness. But Jeroboam II presided over the most prosperous era of the northern kingdom's history. It was as prosperous as the days of King Solomon, but he was a wicked, idolatrous king. So, how do you account for the blessing and the prosperity of King Jeroboam II? in two ways. One is God is merciful. But in the prosperity, remember in Deuteronomy 7, in Deuteronomy 6, we talked about this briefly. There is a great danger to covenant loyalty, loving God with all your heart, soul, and strength. There's a great danger to covenant loyalty that God warns Israel of. What is it? It's blessing. When you enjoy the blessings I will give you freely, you will become satisfied and forget the Lord your God. So blessing is a danger. The blessing of the Mosaic covenant is a danger to the covenant loyalty of God's people. You see why you really don't want the blessings of the covenant? You certainly don't want the curses. But you really don't want the blessings of the Mosaic covenant. You want the blessings of the new covenant, which, as we said, in the Old Testament, God gives the blessings first, then requires obedience to keep them, or righteousness to keep them. In the new covenant, he gives the righteousness first, and then he gives the blessings later. So the prosperity, the peace, the joy, all comes later when we are so prepared for them that they cannot endanger us and we can enjoy them forever. So which covenant do you really want? Not the old. So Psalm 83 now. Oh God, do not remain quiet. Do not be silent. So now the people respond. Do not be silent. Do not be still. For behold, your enemies make an uproar. Those who hate you have exalted themselves. They make shrewd plans against your people and conspire together against your treasured ones. They have said, come, let's wipe them out as a nation, that the name of Israel be remembered no more. For they have conspired together with one mind. Against you they make a covenant. The tents of Edom and Ishmael, Moab and the Hagrites, Gabal, Ammon, Amalek, Philistia, the inhabitants of Tyre. Assyria has also joined with them. They have become a help to the children of Lot. Deal with them as with Midian. He goes back to history again. Why? God isn't going to do exactly the same thing he's done in the past, but he's going to do things that are on that pattern. And so I've learned to trust God. I've learned to know God. So he will do the same thing in a different way. We had in our family, distant members of my family, we had a pair of twins. They were not identical twins. One had black hair and dark complexion. The other had blonde hair and a very, very fair complexion. Are you with me here? My grandfather said, I am my grandfather reincarnated in a way. I tease a lot. I don't know whether you've noticed that. My grandfather said these twins were so different, you can't tell they are alike. Are you with me? They were not anywhere near identical twins. That's the way with the work of God. The pattern will be there, but it'll be so different, it will surprise us in the way that it comes to pass. God always does things uniquely. He's quite creative. So he refers to the past. Deal with them as with Midian and Sisera and Jabin at the torrent of Kishon, who were destroyed at Endor, who became as dung for the ground. Make the nobles like Oreb and Zeeb. This is the battle against the Midianites up north with Gideon. And all their princes like Zebah and Zalmunna, who said, let's possess for ourselves the pastures of God. Oh my God, make them like the whirling dust. And that's enough for Psalm 83 for our purposes. Okay? So they're coming back and praying again for the promises of God and the work of God to be renewed in their days. Psalm 84. Psalm 84 is a song of Zion. This is celebrating the greatness of the city of God as an indication of how great God himself is. So how lovely are your dwelling places, O Lord of hosts. This is our English translation. The word "are," do you see it at the bottom of the screen there? What does that blue mark down there suggest? I can't hear any. I hear every sound, but I hear no words.
Lovely. Lovely.
No, down here.
No, nothing is there.
Nothing is there. What does that suggest?
It's not there.
There's no Hebrew word for this. So, should I read "How lovely are your dwelling places," or should I read "How lovely were your dwelling?" Possibly. O Lord of hosts, my soul longed and even yearned for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh sing for joy. Sing here, I don't have the grammatical form of this. Let me get it up here. It is the form. No, I can't tell from that either. So let me get to that. That gives me the Hebrew here. New in Hebrew. Verbs in Hebrew don't have time. They have time. They don't refer to time. Time is entirely a function of context. There are two tenses. One of them is what's called an imperfect. That is, it refers to an event without specifically talking about its beginning or ending, simply as ongoing in some sense. There is then the perfect, which refers to an event as a snapshot. So if I take a picture of an event, that would be the perfect tense. This is a movie, all right? But I don't know the time except from the context. Given its setting, if I interpret Psalm 84 simply by itself, then I would read it like the NASB reads it. But if I read it in terms of its context, I might have to read, "How lovely were your dwelling places, O Lord of hosts. My soul longed, even yearned, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh used to sing for joy to the living God." Used to, in modern American English, means formerly. I was accustomed to do this in the past. The bird also has found, but the form would be read simply found. A house, and the swallow the nest for herself where she may lay her young. Even your altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. How blessed, no verb again. How blessed those who dwell in your house. They are praising. All tense in the Old Testament is a decision of the translator based on what the context is doing. So the NASB translators have assumed that this is ongoing. Maybe that's the way to read the psalm as it was written, but as it's put into this context, they used to praise you, or they will praise you, but not now.
Brother,
Yes?
is this the same practice even today for the Israelites?
No, they have changed it. What I called the perfect tense has become a reference to the past. What you would call a participle is the present tense verb, and the imperfect is the future tense verb. So they have imposed time now on the verbal system, but not in ancient Hebrew. How blessed is the man whose strength is in you, in whose heart are the highways to Zion. Your highways to Zion, let me just make a comment about that. The word highway is the word in Hebrew. It's the right word to translate it. But the idea is that the people who used to go on pilgrimage to Zion, they were blessed people. We no longer can do that. Temple's not there. Again, this is Psalm 84 within its setting in Book 3 of the Psalms. If I look at Psalm 84 by itself, I would still read it the way NASB reads it. Passing through the valley of weeping, they make it a spring. The early rain also covers it with blessings. They go from strength to strength, every one of them. Again, I need to check. I can translate this. Customarily appeared before God in Zion, O God of hosts. Hear my prayer. What prayer has he asked? What petition has he made? No petition that I have read. So what? There must be an assumed and implied question. What we used to do, may we not do again? Give ear, O God of Jacob. Behold our shield, O God. And now it turns. Behold our shield. I say again, the word shield, maybe I haven't said this to you. There are places where God is called my sun and my shield. Right? The terms are in the ancient Near East epithets of an emperor, a king who rules over other kings. The phrase you know from Scripture, King of Kings, is not simply a superlative. It is a king who rules over other kings and a lord who rules over other lords. So an emperor would be a sun and shield. So our shield, O God, is our king. And look upon the face of your anointed, for a day in your courts is better than 1,000 outside. I would rather stand at the threshold of the house of my God than dwell in the tents of wickedness. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. And here it is. The Lord gives grace and glory. No good thing does he withhold from those who walk uprightly. Within the psalm, why is all this happening? Because we don't walk uprightly. O Lord of hosts, how blessed is the man who trusts in you. At what period of life is this true? Is it true in the midst of prosperity? Blessed is the one who trusts in you. Is that true in prosperity?
No, even in the distress also you can trust.
And also in distress.
Yes.
So this is going to be effectively a call to Israel to continue to trust. Things are bad. They're terrible. We're looking back to the good days now. The good days are no longer with us. We are being dragged off as captives to Babylonia, and we will never see this land again. But we may still trust in you. Psalm 85. This is kind of dismal, isn't it? It's kind of gloomy. But I observed in reading through this line of reasoning, and I wanted you to see, this is a great place, and it's an extended place, to see that psalm builds upon psalm right through. Yes, sir.
Yeah, how can this song be fit in this line that
Well,
we're discussing?
Look back at what we just read. He's been talking about what Jerusalem was and is no more. Are you with me here? The verb tenses in our English translation are too specific. If I read the psalm by itself, it's praise of Jerusalem for its glory and being the dwelling place of God. But if I read it as part of Psalms 82, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's gone now. So I have to read it with that context in mind. And so, how shall I read this section? My soul longed and even yearned for the courts of the Lord. My flesh and my heart and my flesh used to sing. Yeah, again, the tenses are not referring to time at all. And so I have to discover that through the context. But if I only look at Psalm 84, then I translate it as a present. If I look at Psalms 83 and 85, then it's past tense. what we no longer can do. So what does that mean? There's a petition.
Here of prayer.
Take care of our king. Bring us back here. Teach us to walk uprightly. Teach us to trust in you. And you who are walking uprightly in the midst of this troubled time, you who are trusting in the Lord amidst this troubled time, don't stop. Keep at it. It's not time to quit. You see how this works? Psalm 85. It's 11. Let's take a break. Okay? Come back 11:15 by my watch. Okay?